Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are watching today. Happy Monday. Just recovered from the Champions League, really. A massive, massive night that was in Munich. And obviously, PSG smashed the living daylights out of Inter Milan. But back to transfer news. The window's open. The World Club Cup is just weeks away from kicking off, and that should be pretty good as well. Today, we're going to be looking at all of the big transfer news. I'm back later on as well, looking at Arsenal transfer news, so make sure you join me for that one. Do me a favour before we get into it, if you can smash the like button, hit the subscribe button as well, help the Footy Social Club grow. Always appreciated. You don't quite realise just how much a little click of that like button helps the channel grow. Let's get straight into it. There's plenty of transfers you can see on the right-hand side. The likes of Eze and Buemo, Cesco, Vertz, Chery, Cunha. The deal's being done there. First one of the window. Plenty of big names to talk about. And we'll start with that man, Matheus Cunha. He's got his move to Manchester United, completing a £62.5 million move from Wolves. Deal confirmed yesterday. I think it's a really, really good bit of business from Manchester United. I've talked about this. Seems to have been dragged out forever, this transfer deal, but United have made it happen. They've coughed up the money. It's a deal that's being done over 3 payments, a decent payment up front, and then 2 over the next couple of years. Cunha played 36 times for Wolves last year, scored 17 goals, 6 assists. He's a great age as well for United, 26 years old. Will take the number 10 shirt as well, according to Rio Ferdinand. Big pressure taking that one. How do United fans think that he's going to do? I think he's definitely a step up on what they've got. What is this going to mean for Garnacho as well? We'll talk a little bit more about him later on. But yeah, look, Cunha, solid signing from United. It's rumoured they want 2 number 10s to help, obviously, the fact that they scored very little goals. Creativity was a big problem for Manchester United as well last season. So Cunha is going to improve them in that aspect. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not they keep Bruno Fernandes, or whether or not cashing in on him helps fund more players, rejuvenates that squad. My God, do they need it? How many windows do we think that Amorim's going to need to change it up at Manchester United? Where do I think Mbeumo will end up? We're going to be talking about him in just a few moments' time, so do stick with us for that. But I think it's going to be a toss between United and Newcastle. But as to where, I don't know. Brentford, from what I can see from all the sources out there, looks set to be happy for him to go. What do we make, as I said, of the Cunha deal? Will Cunha improve United? Matt says in the chat, or just be a drop in the ocean? Well, look, Manchester United have certainly destroyed a few players' careers in recent seasons. However, I think under Amorim, he'll be very, very good for Manchester United. Absolutely, he's a top player on his day. My criticism of him is he doesn't do any tracking back. And United at the moment are not good enough for just pressing in the final third. I think that's going to potentially cause them some issues. But I think, as I said, Cunha is an upgrade. The 17 goals, the assists as well. I think as long as Manchester United maybe can do 2 or 3 more signings and get other quality around him, especially in the center of midfield. Casemiro doesn't have the legs. As I said, I think you could cash in on Bruno. Then Cunha becomes the right man. And will Manchester United still go for a number 9? So many teams this summer are looking for a number 9. Arsenal, Gyökeres, Cesco, Barcelona, not interested in Cesco. Why are so many clubs not doing a deal on Cesco when there's a buyout clause? Chelsea, they've got so many as well. Liam Dilap, Ekatike is being linked with them as well. We'll talk about them later in the show. Liverpool interested in a striker. So many clubs. There's limited around as well. If I was Manchester United, I think Harry Kane would complement Matheus Cunha hugely. And given that Kane's now won a trophy at Bayern, could a huge money offer convince him to maybe miss out on Europe for one season? come back, try and get the Alan Shearer record. Players like Cunha around him. I think Kane scores goals and propels Manchester United right back up the league. But Cunha's deal's done, 62.5 million. Guys, let me know in the chat what you think of that deal. I think it will turn out to be one hell of a bargain. Right, let's go on. Thomas Partey, read the news this morning, and I'm somewhat surprised, to be honest, that Barcelona are making moves potentially for a free transfer of Thomas Partey. Now, his contract is up at Arsenal at the end of June. It's rumoured that Arsenal will look to offer him a new one-year deal, a player that's probably had arguably his best season at Arsenal. The 31-year-old making 52 appearances last season. Remember, since he's moved from Atletico Madrid, 4 or 5 seasons ago, he's been blighted with injuries. But this season, he has been exceptionally good. And with Arsenal linked with Zubimendi, and I'll be talking about that along with Parte in my next show, about 11:30 UK time. I think it's important that Arsenal try and fend off the interest from Barcelona and Atletico Madrid and look to get a deal done for Thomas Partey. Interesting, Barca coming in for him. Do they really have the money to throw on a 31-year-old? Barca seem to find magical ways of improvising and coming up with the funds and registering players that, they can't actually get registered in the La Liga, but they can in the Champions League and stuff like that. So Partey, could he head back to Spain? Atletico Madrid, where Arsenal got him for, also interested in bringing him back as well. But Barcelona this morning leading the way for Thomas Partey's signature. And I think this could be a real risk for Arsenal. If they lost Partey, they've lost Jorginho. Declan Rice is not favoured in that position by Mikel Arteta. And it's a real danger, I think, that Thomas Partey leaves Arsenal when the Zubimendi deal is not done. And I think he's a player that's going to need time to settle at the club. But we shall see. Zubimendi, Thomas Partey, as I said, they'll be discussed later on. Rayan Cherki, Manchester City are looking to complete a double deal this week. Rayan Cherki is one. Remember, they are in the Club World Cup later this month. A super talented player, was in the Ligue 1 team of the season. Was thought that Manchester United were looking to try and do the Cherki deal. As I mentioned earlier, look, Man United need to probably be looking to improve their midfield this summer as well. He's a bargain at 35 million. Lyon have got a few financial issues of their own. But the fact that United didn't get European qualification of any sort means that Cherki's not really interested in the deal. A player that played 42 times in all competitions for Lyon last season, scored 12 goals and 19 assists. Manchester United fans would love that. Believe that Liverpool took a little look at him, but they've got focuses elsewhere on Florian Vertz. Attitude problems, maybe. Not so sure that will be an issue when he moves to a bigger club. I think with these bigger clubs in this day and age, I think these players get pulled into line by the senior figures. Cherki's only 21. He's not a prospect, not the finished article either. He's got levels to go. Seriously good player. I think, Man City will get this done at 35 million. Their key focus this summer seems to be on the midfield rebuild. The likes of Gundogan's legs are old since he's come back, not the player that he was. Kevin De Bruyne's, gone. They've got other options in the middle of the park. Rodri will be back. That will make a difference to the spine of Manchester City. Is Jack Grealish going to go? City looking for more creative freedom. They're looking for players that, play the Pep way. Technically very, very good is Cherki. As I said, can create, can score, can just do about everything that he needs to do. Manchester City, as I said, looking at a £35 million bid. And I think if they can do that and they can get the attitude right and, sprinkle some of that Pep magic on him, no doubt Pep will have seen things that he wants to change about him and styles, that he thinks he can get out of Cherky. But Cherky will be, I think, a very, very good Premier League player. 21, so he's got bags of time to grow. Let us know, City fans, what do you think? Zubimendi will slot in. Nobody man saying Marino can do a job. I expect Lokonga stays and Dowman's time from the academy. Look, Max Dowman's far too young to be playing and to be considered, a, a week in, week out starter. He also doesn't play at the holding position. Mikel Marino is not that either. And Sambi Lokonga, Arsenal have extended his deal by a further year, but I don't expect him to stay at the club. I think that's purely to protect his transfer value. Arsenal, I think, will look to move him on. Let's go on to Florian Vertz. Now, this one all started off a few weeks out before the end of the season. It was, widely expected Florian Vertz is going to leave by Leverkusen. They've just been taken over by Erik ten Hag, former Manchester United manager. Real Madrid have obviously since taken Xavi Alonso. That Leverkusen cycle's coming to the end. Jermaine Frimpong's deal's been done. He's gone on to Liverpool. And could this man, Florian Vertz, be about to join him at Anfield? Leverkusen not wanting to do a deal with Bayern Munich. They're not interested in strengthening their German rivals. Who wouldn't? I mean, Dortmund have done it in the past and look where that's got them. So I don't think it would be such a smart move from Leverkusen to do the deal with Vertz. I don't think either that Bayern Munich would pay the money that maybe a top English club or a Real Madrid are looking to pay. I think maybe there could be the chance of players going in the other direction. I think Vertz is exceptional. If, Liverpool, Jermaine Frimpong comes in, certainly not the same as Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, he is a very, very good player. In his own right, he'll definitely give Liverpool goals and assists down that right-hand side. If they add Kirk, if they add Florian Vertz, and this morning, according to the Liverpool Echo, Liverpool looking at a number 9 once they do this deal. Liverpool are extremely confident that they can get this deal done. They submitted a revised offer just before the weekend for a fee in the region of 100 million. It's believed 125 will do the deal. Leverkusen willing to negotiate structure and how that deal's loaded. Believe that Leverkusen will drop some of that transfer fee for more money up front. Liverpool fans have called for Liverpool to have an active window. Remember, this time last year didn't do that many deals. Slot was happy with the squad that he inherited from Jurgen Klopp. So, Liverpool look set to be busy. Right back in, they look like they may do Kirk. I'll talk about him coming up in a moment as well. If they bring in Vertz, though, where does he play? Where does Vertz play when you take into account Szoboszlai, when you take into account McAllister, Gravenberg? They've got an exceptionally good midfield. I think that's as good as what we saw in the Champions League final with Ruiz, with the players have gone from my butt. With Vitinha, with Doué. I think Liverpool's midfield is as good as what PSG's is. So where does Florian Vertz come in and play? I think that's the question. No doubt Liverpool are going to look to recoup some transfer fees by maybe moving on the likes of Jota, by maybe moving on the likes of Darwin Núñez, who, cannot hit a barn door. Let's be honest. This would certainly be an upgrade. Morning to Jordan. Looking forward to the Arsenal news today. Jordan, that we're coming up later on, my friend. Thomas Parte, worried about that one. We're talking about Rodrigo as well. Looks set to stay at Real Madrid. Disappointing, that one for many Arsenal fans. Arsenal fans looking for an upgrade on Gabriel Martinelli. Let's go on to the next player. As I said, Milos Kerkez posted a very, very cryptic tweet or Instagram post just the other day. Thanking the Cherries fans, not committing to his future at the club. Thanked the wider Bournemouth family for an amazing last season. 41 appearances in all competitions, played his part as well in the clean sheets, got himself assists, got forward. Another one who, there's so many good left backs currently in the Premier League, and they all play a very similar style, that high press, great engines. These ones now as well seem to be able to defend as well as attack. They're up and down, up and down. Liverpool actively looking at a left back in this market. It's expected that Tsimikas will move on from Liverpool. I think he's very much a B grade type left back. He's a good pro, but I don't think really what Arne starts looking at. Andy Robertson, I don't think he can quite, do what he's done in the past as good as he's been. Yeah, you remember Liverpool paid, I think, a fee in the region of £8 million from Hull for Andy Robertson, and what a player he's been for the club. Won absolutely everything as well. Kirk looks set to be the next best thing. And I think he can learn a lot, especially probably from the defensive side of things for Liverpool. It's no doubt a step up. Champions League football for Kirk as well. But he's got levels to go. And at 40 million, it's an absolute snip of a deal. Liverpool building on their weaknesses in Kirk and Frimpong. If they add a decent 9, they will be hard to beat. Look, I completely agree with that. We're talking about, the chasing pack not being anywhere near the quality of what Liverpool did last year with Frimpong. As I mentioned earlier, if Kirk comes in, if they bring in Vertz, if they then do a number 9, big up to Daniel Knight. Happy Monday, Daniel. If they do a big deal with that, I just cannot see anyone beating Liverpool in the Premier League next year. I don't care what Man City do. I don't care what my team Arsenal do, Chelsea, Newcastle. No one will be near Liverpool next year. And it could be set to be another one-horse race. Let me know down in the chat whilst you're down there. Do me a favour, smash the like button. But I just cannot see Liverpool being touched if they do this amount of deals. And they look set to be active, and they're happy to move people on as well. Next player up, Benjamin Cesco. Berta held secret talks in Germany late last week. And look, it looks to be now that Cesco is Arsenal's preferred transfer target. There's so many fees to what this could be as well. £92 million last week is apparently what Leipzig wanted. They've missed out on Europe. That fee may be structured slightly differently. It could be as low as 65 million, depending on what you read. Arsenal willing to maybe do a little bit more if the terms of the deal are structured out longer to give them more money to play with in this window. Arsenal obviously actively looking for a number 9. It's believed they're going to do the deal on Zubimendi, and I will talk a little bit about that later as well. Cesco, as you say there, Daniel, absolutely correct. He is a project striker. And what I don't understand is why Arsenal haven't done the deal for Gyökeres, who is ready to go. Ready to go, I believe, at Arsenal. Fits the mould probably better than Benjamin Cesco as well. And with Arteta having so much on the line, I'm not so sure why he's pushing so hard for Cesco to come into the club. 41 appearances last year for the 22-year-old, 17 goals and 5 assists. They're good stats, but do I believe that he comes to the Premier League and next season scores 30 goals? I don't believe he does. Do I believe that he comes to the Premier League and scores 20 goals in his first season? I don't think that he does. The Bundesliga is not as good as the Premier League. And I think Cesco comes in at what he'll be 22, 23. I think he comes in and scores 12 to 15. And if we're paying that sort of money for that type of striker, that ain't going to be enough to win Arsenal the Premier League. I do believe that Gyökeres comes in and scores 30 Premier League goals. He's done it in the Champions League. You know, yes, people will say, nobody man down in the chat there, that the Portuguese league is a lesser league, but it's interesting. So many clubs seem to be turning their nose up to Gyökeres. And I actually wonder if that could drive the price down, because Sporting will want to cash in whilst his stock's high. They won't actually want a player sitting at Sporting next year that is probably disappointed that he didn't get a big money move. Barcelona, the latest club this morning, Deco's come out and said they're not looking for a deal for Gyökeres. Napoli rumoured, now not looking. They've got Lukaku. Chelsea, they hold an interest. Arsenal hold the highest interest, but it's certainly cooling this morning. Certainly cooling. Manchester United, I think the rumours for them are purely driven from Amorim. I really don't think Manchester United have got the financial muscle when they've done the Cunha deal already to maybe go out and do the Gyökeres deal as well. Is there an argument that maybe Arsenal go out and do a deal for both Cesco and Gyökeres and let them fight it out for the number 9 spot? That could work. Arsenal will want to compete on multiple fronts. We've seen what injuries have done to the side this year. The likes of Mikel Merino's played up top. Kai Havertz is coming back from a serious injury. He played minutes on the final game of the season, but, is not prolific, doesn't guarantee you probably more than 10 league goals in a season. So for me, Gyökeres should be where we're coming in, but I'd be open to doing a deal for both. I think that, that would improve Arsenal hugely. And we've got to be looking at what these other clubs are going to do as well. And Liverpool are going to improve. Manchester City are going to improve. I think Chelsea will go for 2 strikers, which I'll come to at the end of the show as well. And if that's the case, then 1 striker in Cesco or Gyökeres is probably not enough business. It's really not enough business. Kai Havertz down in the chat there will not win Arsenal the league. No, absolutely. Kai Havertz will not win Arsenal the Premier League. However, he's not a bad player to have, and I think he gives Arsenal options for the number 10 role. I think it gives you some flexibility in midfield when it comes to Declan Rice and where he plays. Slices of SIB, what's up, mate? How are we? Nice for you to join us on this Monday. Let's go on to the next one. Brian and Buemo talked about the Cunha deal at the start of the show. This is a bargain. And I worry for Brentford a little bit next season. Visser and Buemo look set to leave the West London club. And I've got Newcastle and Manchester United with, a high chance of doing this deal. 50 million for a guy that's basically 1 in 2 in all competitions and 29 goal contributions across 42 games. Those stats for 50 million are ridiculous, especially when you consider he's a wide player, and we're looking at the likes of Garnacho being moved on from Man United for the same sort of figure. I'm surprised more Premier League clubs are not looking at Brian and Buemo. He's got levels to go, absolute levels to go. He's by far Brentford's best player. And I think, Newcastle are looking at him with the Champions League they've got this year, as a player that can go and score them goals at the highest level. And that's harsh on Jacob Murphy, who's had a really good season at Newcastle. But I think he'll come unstuck in the likes of the Champions League. And I think, Thomas Frank's a very good manager. And I think under Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe's style of play, and Buemo just fits that system perfectly. And Eddie Howe will coach him in a way that I think will make him even more dangerous than what he currently is, at Brentford. And he's, as I said, scored 20 goals in 42 appearances, 9 assists, 29 goal 29 goal contributions in 42 games for Brentford. This is Brentford that lost an Ivan Toney and have rejuvenated themselves. But I do think, Flecken looks set to leave as well, go to Leverkusen as the goalkeeper if they lose Visser as well. What of Brentford next year? They finished ninth this season. Could they potentially be a relegation candidate? Thomas Frank's being linked with Tottenham. We'll talk about Tottenham in a moment. But yeah, and Mbeumo, Newcastle, I think that would be an exceptionally good deal for either United or Newcastle. United still want a number 10. Newcastle, obviously, actively looking to improve their squad going into the Champions League. Back down in the chat here, Slices at SIB. I'm thinking with an open mind. What do you think of Alexis Matthias Tam and Promise David? Sorry, let me just read that. Promise David for potential strikers. We can get both of them for 10 million or less. Alex is an Estonian powerhouse. Look, yes and no. I think right now you need proven quality over maybe promise, if that makes sense. Promise is one thing, proven is another. And when you need to propel yourself up the league, then I think you've got to go with something that that's going to score you goals, that's going to hit the back of the net. Strikers are worth their weight in gold. And I think, proven is far better than promise at the end of the day. Onwards and upwards, Eze, what a season he had for Crystal Palace. Scored a goal in the FA Cup final, 43 appearances, 15 goals, 11 assists for the 26-year-old. Bayern Munich this morning registering their interest with Eze. Remember, they came in last summer. They got Elise from Crystal Palace, a 23-year-old. He's had an exceptional season at Bayern Munich under company. It's now rumoured that Bayern are looking at Eze as an alternative for Vertz. Liverpool had an interest, but I think their focus has changed from Chery, from Eze into Vertz. I think they've got so much confidence in that deal that they're no longer looking at Eze. But Tottenham, well, they've definitely got an interest. Definitely got an interest in this player for a fee believed to be in the region of £60 million. Now, we know Daniel Levy, he holds those purse strings ever so tight, treats that money like it's his own. He'll want a deal, no doubt. But the hard thing for Spurs at the moment is that the Ange Postecoglou situation hasn't resolved itself. And I don't really get it. With the window opening for the next 10 days or so until the World Club Cup kicks off and whatever else, other clubs around Spurs are already making moves. They're already going for players that Spurs are interested in. So can Spurs really afford to sit back? Or is it the case that when it's Eze, any manager that comes into Spurs is going to be interested in Eze? He's a great age now. He's got great experience in the Premier League. I think he's improved under Glasner, like so many at Palace this season. But could Eze be thinking, well, I'm happy to stay at Palace for another season. I've got European football. In the Europa League after winning the FA Cup. Are Spurs, yes, they're in the Champions League and so many players want to play in the Champions League. But is it gonna drive him that much? Spurs aren't going to win the Champions League, and if they get knocked out outside, there's no drop down into the Europa League. Could Palace, with the squad they've got, maybe go a little bit further than what Spurs do overall in the Champions League? And also, is there a question for Eze that who's the manager going to be? Are they going to want to play me? He knows that Ange likes his style of play and what he offers, but does the next manager, does it work for them? Spurs fans, would you like to see Eze at the club? What does it mean for the likes of James Maddison? Had his injuries. Is there an upgrade there? Does he fit? Or would you like to see other players? I think it's important that Spurs probably keep Ange now, but on the condition that he has a plan B, because they can't afford to finish 17th next year. They've nigh on being relegated. They did their best to do that. Let's go on to another Palace man, Mark Gahhee. this morning, and like others, linked with Newcastle, linked with Chelsea. Eddie Howe very keen to strengthen his back line. See Gahhee providing, competition there for maybe Dan Burn, who's Mr. Newcastle, Mr. Consistent. But, we've seen how good Gahhee is. He's an absolute natural as well. So, yeah, look, 70 million. He was linked with Newcastle last year, linked with Chelsea. Chelsea holding interest, former youth team player. Made 44 appearances last year. 17 of those were clean sheets. Still only 24. England international. Very, very good centre half. Very good centre half. Captain of Crystal Palace. Daniel, you're down in the chat. Would you like to see Gahhee return to Chelsea? I think it would make sense. I think he's an improvement on Colwell. I think he's better than Chalobah. Yeah, Chalobah plays on the other side. I think he's better than, Diasasi or whatever his name is, who's gone out on loan to Aston Villa. I think he's better than Badashili. Gahhee would be an improvement. He's definitely an improvement for the Newcastle back line as well. Good on the ball, tactically smart, puts his body on the line. I think either club, this would be a very, very solid deal for. We shall see. Alejandro Garnacho. Safe to say I haven't been impressed with Garnacho in recent weeks. The spitting of the dummy out of the pram following, him not being in the starting lineup for the Europa League final against Spurs. It seems that he's pushing for a move to Chelsea. And if I was Chelsea, I'd take a wide berth on signing Garnacho. He's arguably not any better than Sancho. He's not really any better than Madueke. I think Pedro Neto is a better player. And to me, I don't really see the fascination with Garnacho. Conte's rumoured to be an admirer of him as well. Maybe he'd suit the Italian league better. But he's certainly got an attitude issue, that's for sure. 58 appearances last season, 11 goals, 10 assists for the 20-year-old. Bags of potential. Terrible attitude. Terrible, terrible attitude. Tell me down in the chat, do you think that's a good return? Do you think 50 million for Garnacho is good money? I'm not so sure. Not when you see the stats that Ryan Cherky's offering Manchester City for 35 million. I'm not so sure that that Garnacho is. I think Amarim's done with him for what's believed that he's told Garnacho that his future at the club is very much up. Does he suit a Chelsea style of football better? A little bit more maverick, maybe. United, obviously, if they cash in on him at 50 million, and Matt's saying down there, not likely to get that. But if they cashed in on 50 million, that is pure profit for Manchester United. And if you think they did the Fernandes deal as well, you could be talking about 150 million coming into the club. Interesting, Daniel, that you say keep Garnacho away from the club. Is that purely on the basis of the attitude, or is that on the basis of that you don't think that he's any better than what you've already got? Because summer after summer, clubs do deals for me where they're actually not improving. They're just stockpiling. Chelsea are great at it. But I don't think that Garnacho improves them in any way, shape or form. Any way, shape or form. I don't think he improves Manchester United, improves Chelsea. I don't think he improves Napoli either. So it'd be interesting to see what happens to him. Maybe he'll have to get his head down and try and prove himself to Amarim, who I think is happy to move him on. Let's go on to this man, Carmen Kelleher, the number 2 at Liverpool. Made 20 appearances last year, 53 saves, 9 clean sheets, nearly a 1 in 2. Hard to believe he's 26 years old, to be honest. Deal's been done with Brentford, not quite complete. Morning to Steve. No, not interested in Man United rejects. Don't blame you. Keller looks set to leave Liverpool. Was pretty vocal in his post match press conferences following the final game at Anfield against Crystal Palace that maybe now he'll look to seek pastures new. The fee with Brentford is believed to be 12.5 million up front, rising to 18 million subject to probably European qualification, Premier League survival, you name it. There'll be elements there that will tack this up to 18 million. Liverpool look set to let him go, happy to let him go. He wants first team football. This is a very good deal for Brentford. Flecken, who I do not rate, is making his way out of the club. He's on his way to Bayer Leverkusen to be Eric Ten Hag's new number one, 31-year-old goalkeeper here, bringing in a 26-year-old goalkeeper with Premier League experience. He's going to be the number one. He's good with his feet. He's a good shot stopper. Republic of Ireland international, 12 million. As I said, rising to 18. Wages not expected to be a problem either. He's expected at Brentford today for a medical. So I'd expect over the next 24 hours that deal to be done. Are we surprised that maybe someone like Aston Villa, who Emi Martinez looks set to leave Villa, is not interested in a player of Kelleher's qualities? A very, very good goalkeeper. Definitely not done anything wrong when he's played for Liverpool in place of Becker or Alisson, however you want to say it, when he's been injured. Yeah, I think this move is more about for him. I've won the Champions League. I've won the Premier League twice. I've won the League Cup and whatever else. I want to experience it now as a number one. I'm willing to give up the opportunity of winning trophies. It'd be very difficult for Brentford to win them. I've probably got, as a keeper, 34, another 9-10 years he could probably play, at least 7 or so at the top level. Brentford's a solid club. Said they could be in a bit of a relegation issue next year if they lost the likes of Thomas Frank, Visser and Mbeumo. But the likes of Kelleher coming in, I think, is an upgrade on Flecken, who they've looks set to leave for Leverkusen. Tijani Rinders, what a player this boy is. Turned down Barcelona when he went to AC Milan. Loved, the Dutch. I mean, both Barcelona and AC Milan have Dutch history, but the Dutch history in the Van Bastens, the Ruud Hullits of this world. And Tijani Rinders looks set for a huge money move this week to Manchester City. The 26-year-old Dutch international, £76 million is what AC Milan are hoping to get for the 47-year-old. 13 goals, 5 assists, can just about do it all in the middle of the park. Box to box, City need legs. City need to rebuild the midfield engine. If you think of him next to Rodri, Chery as well, that looks a totally different midfield to what City put out this year. Pep can rotate as well. And for Guardiola, who is looking for players that are technically very, very good with glass ceilings to go through, then Tijani Rinders ticks all of those bills. As a Dutchman, they're naturally gifted. They're naturally good on the ball. Technically, very, very good player. As I said, there's goals, there's assists. Interesting slices of SIP. You see that as risky. I'd love for you to tell me why you see that as risky, because I do not see this deal as risky. I see this as a very solid signing. I'm expecting the likes of Jack Grealish to leave. I think Bernardo Silva may leave. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne is leaving. City will get players out of the club. Gundogan could go as well. I could see him maybe back at Borussia Dortmund for a small fee. Tijani Rinders knows what he's doing. Guardiola loves a player that's already got certain attributes, good on the ball, can see a pass, whether that's short or long, can play between the lines. Reinders can do all of that and more. And Pep will see that as the opportunity to develop him further. From them, obviously, they still got the court case hanging over him, the 115 charges. They don't want to do the Florian Vertz deal. They see that as a deal in excess of £250 million. The time that you see the time that you see them doing wages and signing on fees and agents fees. This is far more the market they want to be shopping in. And you're talking about them doing Chery and Rinders for a fee in the region of 110, 115 million pounds for two players. They want them both done in this week in time for the Club World Cup. You know, clubs, the window's open for those clubs to do business. And as such, you know, Rinders looks set to come in. Verbally, it's believed that both him and Chery have agreed moves to Manchester City. So we'll see what happens with that one over the course of the coming days. Two to go. Both Chelsea, Liam Dilap, first part of his medical is getting underway this Monday. £30 million fee. And I want to talk about Dilap. Do we think he's going into Chelsea to be their leading front man? Is he better than Nicholas Jackson? You know, is it a risk for Dilap to go into the club when so many players go in and go on the merry-go-round and come back out again? Possibly. 40 appearances for a poor Ipswich side last season, 12 goals in all comps, 2 assists, 22 years old. Rumoured that he wants to be knocking on the England doors squad. And I think, you know, if he's scoring goals for Chelsea, then Thomas Tuchel will certainly be keeping his eye open. I think that, you know, the immediate position behind Harry Kane is there to be fought for. You've got the likes of Dom Solanke at Spurs. You've got Ollie Watkins at Villa. This man, Liam Dilap, playing for a so-called top 6 club. Well, look, you know, he's got every opportunity. 30 million's a bargain. Turned down Manchester United, no European football. He wants to play football at the very top. I just don't really understand why other clubs haven't looked at him when the fee for him is so low, given what normally is paid for young English talent. He's got bags and he's another one, bags of potential, bags and bags of potential. But will he be Chelsea's number 9 next season? And I say that because of this man at Frankfurt, Hugo Ekitike, 45 appearances, 19 goals, 11 assists last season, 30 goal contributions in 45 games for the 22-year-old. Now, he's not £30 million. He's £84 million. And Chelsea retained the highest interest in him. But Liverpool, according to the Liverpool Echo this morning, now hold interest in Ekitike, believing that they can move on Jota, believing that they can move on Darwin Núñez, will free up more funds to go for a number 9. And if Chelsea sign easier for me to say, Ekitike, then really who is their number 9 next year? Because there's no real reports of Nicholas Jackson leaving the club. You know, if Dilap comes in, he must have been told, you're going to be my number 9, you know, by Maresca. Maybe Maresca's told him that. And if they go and sign Ekitike, what are they telling him? You know, arguably now, when players are signed for huge figures, and 84 million, that's a big amount of money for a 22-year-old. If they bring him in, surely then he becomes Chelsea's number 9 next year. Didn't work out for him at Paris. Selling more hotels, selling the women's team, selling off Strasbourg, you name it, Chelsea will sell their soul. Todd Bowley, I think, would sell his mother if he could turn a profit. I genuinely believe that. But, you know, Ekitike coming in, I'd like to see him in the Premier League. Quick, good across the ground, powerful shot, good finisher, you know. But I think it opens up more questions for Chelsea around, are they stockpiling players yet again? Could Dilap come in and just go out? And maybe if they go down the route of Ekitike, what does it mean for Victor Osimhen? You know, another number 9 out there who has got bags and bags and bags of potential. Yet no one seems to want to do the deal. Now, my belief on that is for wages. Wants, north of 300,000 a week. And I don't think Premier League clubs like paying that. And the risk is, and I'm not saying it would happen, is that, if he doesn't hit the ground running Osimhen and doesn't score the goals, then any club lumbered with 300 grand a week trying to move him on again is probably left picking up a good portion of those wages. So maybe, although the fee's bigger for Hugo at Frankfurt, maybe the wages are a lot less. And, Chelsea will probably look to do this deal over 7 or 8 years to get around whatever form of financial fair play they can do. But I wouldn't rule Liverpool out either. Liverpool going to have to sell. That's a guarantee. They're going to have to sell. But, Chelsea and Liverpool both actively looking for a number 9. It seems that like Liverpool are not interested in Gyökeres either. I think they see, Ekitike as an Isak type player without paying the 150 million that Stephen down in the chat would not want a club to pay, this season anyway. So, yeah, Liverpool and Chelsea looking to do deals there. Just quickly as well, I want to talk about Rodrigo. Don't have him up on screen. Came out over the weekend that Xabi Alonso wants to keep him. Chelsea and Arsenal both linked with his services. Looks set to stay at Real Madrid. The window's just about to hot up. The Club World Cup's just around the corner. There's deals to be done. There's so many deals I think that can be done, and I'll have a quick look just to see what's, if anything else has broken since we started talking on air just over 45 minutes ago. Glasner's talking about the potential outgoings of Gahhee, Eze, and Wharton. Surely, if you're Palace manager, you're wanting to keep as many as well. Gittins as well. Yep, correct. Chelsea interested in Gittins, but nothing concrete there at the moment. No official bid has been lodged for that. Could Palace also potentially be at risk of losing Mitchell, the left back from Palace, and Mateta, another good striker for me, Mateta. There are some good number 9s about. It's just for some reason some clubs don't seem to want to pull the trigger on these players. Not much else at the moment. Dilap now being said that Chelsea will announce the Liam Dilap signing today. I said earlier that the medical, sorry guys, the medical was underway. So Chelsea expected to announce that today. Quiet on the news is of Burnley, Sunderland and Leeds. Not much going on there. Flecken and Keller having their respective medicals today as well. Brighton, they may be set to lose O'Reilly. Everton interested in his services. Villa, Martinez, could he leave? Could Jacob Murphy leave? It is widely believed Villa are going to have to balance the books in the summer. Give Dilap the 19 shirt. Absolutely my lucky number, so why not? Guys, that's it for this transfer show today. I'll be back tomorrow looking at more of the latest breaking deals as they happen. I'll be back online UK time about 11:30. It's out on YouTube already, talking all things Arsenal transfers as well. Thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you on the next one.